In this video, we'll guide you through the process of crafting your very own pair of leather sandals. By the end, you'll have the skills to create a durable and stylish pair of sandals that you can be proud of. Let's get started. All the leather used in this video is from the leather company. You can find their information in the description below. We'll begin with 8 to 9 ounce natural vegetable tanned leather for the upper layer. To create a pattern that fits perfectly, trace a pair of your favorite sandals onto cardstock. This method not only ensures a custom fit, but also provides a reusable pattern for future projects. I recommend using a silver pen instead of a scratch-all. It allows you to easily erase any mistakes without damaging the leather. For the mid layer, we're using 4 to 5 ounce black vegetable tanned leather. When cutting out the shapes of the sandal layers, cut them roughly to get a general idea of the shape. The reason for this is that in the final step of shaping the sandal, all pieces will be glued together. This ensures a uniform and clean cut when we finalize the shape. When I cut out the shapes of the sandal layers from the leather, I do so in a really rough way. I'm looking just to get the idea of the shape. The reason for this is, when we make it to the final step of cutting the shape of the sandal, all of the pieces will be glued up together, and when we cut it, it will be uniform. To create the shape of the strap for your sandals, this is very easy. Make the shape of a V and make it as thick as you would like it to be. Here the thickness is 1 inch, but this can be as thick or as thin as you would like. Once I get the shape of both straps traced out, I use that as the pattern to make the backside of the straps. I like to use 2 layers of 4 to 5 ounce leather put together, so that the strap has a nice structure and a finished look. Now that the 2 layers of the straps are glued up and nicely bonded together, this is when I will cut out each of the straps. This allows for a uniform look, without having to meticulously match up the 2 sides perfectly. Using a compass, I like to create a stitch line that is anywhere between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch from the edge. This will give a nice guided line that you will use to create a straight stitching line. Something that I have found helps speed up my hand stitching, specifically when using punches, is to thread 3 holes and then pull your thread tight. This speeds up the process quite a bit and allows for a more uniform stitch tension. This works with stitching punches, but not pricking irons. I find that rather than using a hammer to flatten out my stitches, if I use a roller, I get better results. One of the best investments that you will make in leather craft is getting good quality edge bevelers. This is a tool that you will use on nearly every project, so finding the edge beveler that works best for you is definitely worth the investment. Take the time when sanding the edges of your straps and polishing them. Remember, this is a portion that will be rubbing the top of your foot, so you want to make sure that you make this portion as comfortable as possible. Really put in the work to achieve the best edges that you possibly can. Something that is very helpful is having a fingernail file to get into the small corners that are harder to reach with just your fingers and sandpaper. You are going to need 2 size hole punches. The one you are going to use on the strap and the first layer of your sandals is going to correspond with the size of the rope you will use as your toe separator. You want it to be the exact same size. Whatever size you decide you want the rope to be is completely up to you and should also be based on the width of your sandal straps. The second punch that you're going to use for the second 2 layers of your sandals is going to be larger. When you tie the knot on your rope, that knot is going to fit into that hole so that the bottom of your sandals are flush. This will make more sense when we get to that portion of the project. If you do not have one of these strap punches, you can simply cut this portion out. What's important is that this hole is the exact same size as the width of your straps. Now you are going to cut down the length of your straps to fit the size of your feet. This is going to be specific to your feet, so measure them how you would like them to fit specifically to you. Allow some extra space, about 3/4 of an inch, so that you're able to fold that under the first layer of your sandals. I like to use a French skiver to thin out the area that is going to be where the folded portion of the straps fold in. The reason for this is to smooth out the bulk of the leather, so you're not standing on lumpy sandals. Taking this extra step will definitely provide a far better finished product. Also, do this on the straps on the 3/4 inch of the strap that will be folded between the first and second layers of leather. Now you're going to apply glue. I prefer contact cement on the 3/4 inch of the strap that will be folded, as well as the first layer of leather. This is the 8 to 9 ounce leather. Fold that over and make sure it has a very solid bond. Now we are going to sew in the straps to the first layer. Now the sandals are starting to take form. We are going to now glue up the remainder of the sandals. Be sure to spend extra attention lining up the toe strap holes for each layer. And just a reminder, the top layer should have the smaller hole punched, while the bottom layers should have the larger hole punched into them. This is where the knot for the toe separator rope will lay flush inside of. It's important that you rough up the bottom layer of leather for your sandals. This is going to help create a solid bond between the leather and the rubber sole, which is coming next. Now that all of the layers are glued together and everything is in place, this is when we are going to cut our shape into the sandals. This will give us a nice even shape for each layer of our sandals so that everything is uniformed. This saves so much time and frustration rather than trying to match up each layer. If you don't happen to have this awesome table sander and burnishing machine from Weaver Leather Supply, don't get discouraged. You're going to just need to sand the edges by hand. Big shout out to Weaver Leather Supply for the amazing tools. Using the same width as before on your wing dividers, create a stitching line around the outside of your sandals. Because the shape of the sandal is all curves, it is best to use a two-prong stitching punch or pricking irons. Before we used a roller to flatten out our stitch lines, but if you do not have one of those, a smooth-headed hammer works perfectly fine as well. Now we are going to trace our sandals onto our rubber soles. These rubber soles you can find on Amazon, but there are many different places you can source rubber soles on the internet. This is a preference to what it is that you would like. It is extremely important that you have the toe separator hole exactly correct on the rubber sole, so be sure to do this step carefully. Now that you have that traced out, you are going to use your larger hole punch and punch that hole out in your rubber sole. Because the rubber sole is not going to be stitched together with the leather portion of your sandals, I prefer to do 2 coats of contact cement on both the rubber portion and the leather portion. It is extremely important to make sure that you line up the toe separator holes on both the leather portion and the rubber portion perfectly. Allow your sandals to bond overnight, ensuring that the rubber portion and the leather portion have ample time to come together and create the best bond possible. You're going to cut off all of the remaining rubber around the leather portion of your sandals. If you are going to be hand sanding, I would recommend taking your time during this portion to get the closest cut you can possibly get. because of the thickness of the sandals when they're complete, I would highly recommend using a higher number edge beveler, either a number 3 or a number 4. On the last pass of polishing your edges, I would recommend using beeswax over token. The reason for this is that the wax will seal the edges and help keep water out of the leather. Using a wax-based leather balm, thoroughly polish these sandals. I recommend doing 2 to 3 solid coats, allowing time between each coat. This will allow the wax to penetrate the leather, conditioning it, and helping it preserve the leather. This is crucial if you intend on wearing these in the weather and water. Thread your rope through the toe separator hole and tie a knot. Melt all of the fray fringes to create a ball that is small enough to fit into the holes on layer 2 and 3. Then pull it tight so that the knot fits flush. If you are making these for yourself, use your own foot for measurement. I use these shoe separators because these are a product I provide to my clients. If you make a pair of these sandals, please tag me 21 grams leather goods. I would love to see all of the beautiful sandals that you make. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this step-by-step tutorial. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tag 21 grams leather goods.